Hello, it's Dawn again. Thank you so much for joining me on my new YouTube channel. I just want to say how thrilled I am to see so many people who've given me some likes and some thumbs up and subscribed to my channel. It's very exciting. It's been a very couple of exciting days actually, and I really thank you for joining me. I've got a couple of little bloopers that I just want to fix up from my first video. I talked about a couple of things and some people's names that I mispronounced, so just want to fix that up. The Flower Magic Art Fest is what it was called that I talked about, from Francisca Nunes. She's running that at the moment online. Jennifer Clouston, I apologise to Jennifer for mispronouncing her name. Jennifer Clouston, and this book has just been a lovely source of inspiration and technique knowledge that I've learnt so much from, and really appreciate the effort that she puts into, and love following her daily stitching on YouTube. Nikki Franklin I spoke about at a retreat with Lisa Matic from Forage. She was the one who actually, it was Nikki who was the one who actually taught us about doing this beautiful fine embroidery, and I might have called her Lisa. So my apologies to Nikki for doing that. Sashiko embroidery was the Japanese embroidery that I taught. I don't know how I pronounced it the last time, but I don't think it was Sashiko. But it's an art form of following a stencil pattern with just straight stitch that I just really love the look of. So yep, that was another one. And Melanie from Purveyor of Reclaimed Textiles was the website of the site on Instagram to purchase all sorts of lovely vintage fabrics and trims and things. So they're my apologies. A couple of things that I just want to talk about before I get started on this. Today I'm just going to concentrate on my Alice panel. The first part, is Susanna's from Vintage Blend Studio. Her panel is the one that I actually cut up. So the top part was the Christmas one that I showed you. This was the next part. And then the bottom part was the row of shops that I've yet to actually start. Just giving that a little bit of thought about how I might go about that before I start it. So if you're interested in these panels, then you would need to head over to her site at Vintage Blend Studios to find those. The product that I used, excuse me, the product that I used for printing these little cutouts was the Matilda's Own Inkjet printable fabric that I spoke about. I think I said I got it from the Officeworks shop, but I actually got it from an art shop. It was $24 for 5 sheets, which is quite expensive, but it works really well. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever in my printer printing it out, and I'm quite happy at how it actually sews on. It doesn't fray. I've been able to do the majority of work without having to glue it down first, which is also a bonus. Using Vliza Fix to stick them down is difficult to sew through, as many people have mentioned, and I find it difficult also, but I find that this is okay just by pinning it, and I'm all right with that. The lovely fabric that I have as the border, I said that I bought at a fabric shop, Gales Patchwork Emporium in Ballarat. This is the designer of the fabric. The name of it here is cut off because I only bought that 25 centimetre amount. But if anybody was really interested in it, I just think it's gorgeous. Just looks like painting on there rather than a print of something real. The paints that I use are Inktense blocks from Derwent. I quite like the way they manage on fabric. There's lots of people that talk about them Christine from Create and Craft with Christine talks about how she dyes her threads, and I've certainly had a go at that as well. I just use these water brushes. They've got a water reservoir in there and then a brush at the end that you can, once you activate the water to come through the bristles, it's quite easy to pick up the amount of ink, because it is an ink, off the blocks, and then add them to the fabric as you need them. So I just thought I'd mention that. And I think that's about all that I wanted to talk about to share from my previous video. One thing that happened the other day, I was stitching with that lovely little fine needle that I spoke about, and picked up my work, and the needle fell off and promptly fell on the floor, never to be found again. It's disappeared in the abyss of under my chair here, and so I had to go find another one. So I found them, and that's what I'm using. It's a size 10 sharps needle. It's just a Birch brand, but I find them really, they work really well with this type of work. So yeah, so I thought I'd just keep working on my Alice panel now, just as something to do and stitch while I'm chatting to you. What I find when I'm working with this sort of fabric or attaching something that's delicate, when I haven't actually done anything with the edges, is I prefer to go from the base fabric over the edge of the of what I'm attaching, just to reduce a little bit of stress on the very edge of the fabric. I just find that seems to work quite well for me. What it also does is helps me manage the size of my stitches, because I can get a bit out of proportion some really long stitches and short stitches, and this way I seem to have a little bit more control over what I'm doing, which just works for me. If anyone was interested in this little overcast stitch, as I said previously, seeing those little stitches there don't really bother me much. Sometimes they disappear, sometimes they stand out a little bit more, but I'm okay with it. It's just part of the design here that doesn't really bother me very greatly. So yeah, I'm just using a normal sewing machine thread. I think it's a Razant, which I quite, oh no, it's not, it's just a Coates polyester actually. I quite often use a Razant, which I quite like as well, just it's something that I quite like to use for lots of different types of stitching, sometimes in the machine as well. I spoke a little bit about the embroidery threads that I'm going to use on this. I have used some DMC just because it's the colour that I had really at the time, one thread, because I'm finding for this design it's quite small and I don't want to have very thick threads. So I've used a DMC just around this edge here. I just thought that it needed a little bit of definition, a bit of grounding, just seemed to be floating around in the air otherwise without it. Around this little edge here, this was a piece of stamped fabric that I used to create the doorway here, but I just did this fine little edge here. The colour is 413, I think, from DMC. Just rather than using black, I think black was a bit heavy. For the edges here, I thought that I would couch a thread on there. I preferred that straighter look. It's a Wonderfill Dazzle range. It's browny red colour really, with a little tiny weeny bit of sparkle in it that I thought just added a bit of dimension to the edges of here, helps bring it up, stand it up from the background. And around the roof here I found this thread in my stash that I have no idea what it is because I've put it on this card and never to be known anything about again. I probably dyed it at the time and it might have come in a skein, but I don't have that information. I'm sorry if anyone's looking for it. I tried a few different things to try and make it find something that worked, and that was the one that I had in my stash, so I just continued on with that. Some of the other things that I thought I would do is fill in a little bit of the embroidery just to make it have a little bit of extra. I started work somewhere here, a bit hard to see, but just helps to give it a little bit of extra texture. That was this thread here. It's a viscose something, doesn't have, oh, it's a Madeira brand, which is made in Germany. I would have bought it originally for the machine when I was doing machine embroidery, and it's also got some sparkle in it, but it's a bit of a variegated thread, so I thought that might look quite nice on some of the leaves. I'll keep working on that one. Same needle, it works. I can get it threaded through there. Not sure if I'll put any beads or any other embellishment on it. Just that's probably going to be a last decision. At this stage I don't think it needs them, but I've gathered myself a variety of the machine embroidery threads in different colour ranges, and I quite like cut glass just for something nice to be on my table, so you might see a bit of that occasionally. So yeah, it's another rainy day again today. Great for being inside and stitching. I'm always happy about an excuse to stay in and do this and not feel too pressured about working out in my garden. I have a veggie patch and a herb garden that both desperately need a bit of work done on them because the weeds have had a bit of a go. The spinach, I think, is trying to get itself up to the sky. It's gone to seed, so I need to get that sorted, get it ready to be ready for spring planting, but I've got a few more weeks before I need to worry about it, so that's okay. Hopefully it'll stop raining. I don't have to do any gardening out in there in the rain, which isn't my favourite job. Yeah, so that's about all that we've been doing at the moment. Last night we had a nice night out with the family in the freezing cold with our hats and gloves and coats on. We went to a night show at a local park here called Gumbaya World. It's been around for a really, really long time, since my kids were little, and it was just an Australian animal park, but since then it's been sold and revamped. It's got water adventure park and rides and things, but last night, or over these last school holidays, there's been an Aboriginal dreaming light show with some beautiful storytelling. The trees were lit up, absolutely gorgeous displays. We didn't see very many animals because it was dark. That was okay. There was a couple of kangaroos hanging around and a few birds in the aviaries, but I think they're all trying to sleep except for the owls. But the kids loved it. We really enjoyed it too. I was talking to my daughter a little while ago and we all loved being there. It was great. It was a great night. A bit different to go out at night in the dark. Had a little bit of adrenaline pumping action, but yeah, kids enjoyed a couple of rides and that was nice. Got something to eat and we're home again in plenty of time for bedtime, so yeah, it was good too. So yeah, I think after today, I'm going to really try very hard, because I've been procrastinating a little bit about starting my field notes journal with the Roxy's project. Just didn't know what I really wanted to do. I had a fancy to do something with a bit more painting than I normally do, but trying to keep in the vein of the slow stitch project that the girls are encouraging us to do. I was struggling a bit about how to manage that, so I've yet to get everything out on the table and just have a play with it, but this seemed like the easier option for today. I didn't have to think too much because I've done most of the work to it, so that was good. So yeah, I think that's about all. I don't know that I've got much more to talk about. It's been really nice getting messages from everybody that they liked what I did, liked what I showed on my first video, so that really encouraged me to have another go. How I'll manage to upload it and do all of that without my lovely Corinne, I don't know, but anyway, maybe I'll be able to do it. But the last time she certainly gave me a lot of support. Some things can be fairly intuitive on the computer, and then other things just don't seem to be too obvious. Gosh, got a croaky voice. First sort of lengthy conversation I've had today. What else can I tell you? I don't know if there's much. I'm hoping clear my throat. I'm hoping over the next little while, as I gain a little bit more confidence. I don't know about anybody else who does these, but gosh, it takes me about a half an hour to pluck up the nerve to get started and think about what am I going to talk about. I find that I really like to watch videos that have a bit of conversation in them, so that's my my thought about that. I love watching people stitch. I love watching people doing their painting. I love that people are so generous with sharing how they do things. There's so many of you out there, and that I subscribe to and follow. It's my normal first early morning ritual now is to have my coffee and my muffins for brekkie and sit and watch what people are doing, what's uploaded over the night, and get the creative juices flowing, get me started on creating my own things. And then I love just listening to people chatter away about what they're doing, and some about their lives. I feel like I know people really well and I've never met them. And while I'm stitching too, sometimes I look up. I must admit, I don't always look up all the time, but often it's because I've actually watched it once before, and then I think, oh good, I'm going to go and do some of that, and then I just put them on again and re-listen, because sometimes I've missed what they've said, or that's just a nice inspiration thing. So I'm hoping that I'll achieve that for people as well. So yeah, that's me. I think I might stop overstitching that and go back to having a look at what I was doing here. I couched these threads here and thought I might do the same with this. So thought that might be something that I might actually tackle now with you. Hopefully that might be something that you're interested in doing. I did use one of these lovely big Milliners needles that I've found through different people talking about them. It's great for these thicker threads. Oh, I might actually do that as soon as it's threaded. I put this thread around the window here to give it a little bit of definition as well. Thought that it needed a little bit of a pop. And this is just an old crochet thread. It's called Mercer. Hard to see in there. It says a 40. Don't really know if that's a size. Something that I picked up in a bag of threads at the op shop. But I really love the colour, and so that sort of prompted me to use it on here, because I thought it went really well. And so all I've done is started at one end and couched it on using the same thread that I was using for the applique. Don't know if this is the right or the wrong way to do something, but it's the way that I do it. And so I just leave that dangling, have another little bit of thread to attach it with so that it can hold it down. Just rather do that than have little tiny stitches, a back stitch or a running stitch. Don't think that that style of stitching lends to this work as an outline for something that's already there. So yeah, that was what I was doing after we came home from our nighttime adventure last night. It was still a little bit early, and I thought, oh, I'll have a go at that. Always takes me so much longer than I think it's going to. I think, oh, that'll just be a 5-minute job, and then it's a little bit longer. But I'm quite happy stitching away slowly. I sometimes put a movie on to watch or really listen to, because I can't necessarily look up all the time, but that just gives me a nice excuse to sit and stitch and listen to a movie. Not anything in particular. I've just found a few funny old movies on YouTube just because it's been on, and then all of a sudden something comes on and I think, oh yeah, I might watch that. I have no idea if I'm mumbling here, and hopefully you can hear me, that you can turn the sound up. The sound of the heater above me, the duct above me, isn't too loud in your ear as well. As I said, it's a bit cold outside and the heater's continuing to blow. It hasn't quite got to temperature yet. I have no idea what the temperature is outside, but it's cold. But that's okay, it's winter here. So yeah, that's me. That's how I've couched on all of these threads around these edges, just in a fairly simple fashion. I think that it just gives it a bit of dimension, a bit of texture, pops the window off the page rather than having it sit flat in amongst the paint, which I love the paint, but sometimes I just don't get that same level of texture that I get if I'm embroidering or thread painting, appliquing. So yeah, I found that this seems to be a process that works for me anyway. Hopefully you like it too. Other things I like to do apart from my stitching and gardening is I like to cook. I love making sourdough bread, make my own bread every day, or no, not every day because we don't need a loaf of bread every day, but I make some and then freeze it so that we can just have a couple of bits of toast. But I started making sourdough during COVID and just got interested in that. It was a simple process, couldn't get fresh bread always at the supermarket, so got myself interested in making bread and have just continued to do it. It's a bit of a family favourite, the sourdough, and I make sourdough English muffins, which are my favourite. When I'm feeding the sourdough, if you know anything about it, using the discard rather than trying to restore it or throw it out, which seems always a bit of a shame to me. I've been making these muffins and they're yum. Lost the needle. So when I get to the end, I just re-thread it back through because the needle, this size needle, will take it through without any problems at all. Just back down where I started. And what I did for the the frames was that I just went I think I started down the middle, came back up through the middle, did the middle one. It's going to keep coming unthreaded. Corinne, need to do your special secret knot down there, and then coming back, go across each of the bars. Which also helps to hold that middle thread down. It's absolutely pouring outside. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's absolutely pouring. It's funny, we hadn't had any rain for ages. Just at the end of autumn and at the start of winter, we were all commenting on the fact that we're actually having to water, which seemed ridiculous to be doing at this time of year. But anyway, it's pouring today. It's been raining quite a few days actually this last week. Just that one's just a little bit tighter than I want it, but never mind. That's just how it goes. And then knot it off at the back. Most of the time when I'm stitching something, I back it. I prefer to work on more than the fabric surface. But with this linen tea towel, it's such a it's a great weight of fabric that I don't think that it needs the backing. Whether I back it when it's finished, I have no idea. I guess that's just going to be one of those things that I make a decision about at the end. I didn't back the Christmas one. I didn't think that it needed it. It doesn't bother me if I see the threads at the back. I am never going to be, it's going to be hanging on a wall. I've actually got an archway that I normally hang a wreath on between two rooms at Christmas, and I hung all of the Roxy's Christmas decorations that I made. I didn't make all of them, but I made quite a few on there, and I thought on the bit of wall space above that arch that Christmas panel might look quite nice hanging there. How I'm going to do that, I don't know yet, but never mind, I'll work it out. When we did the Christmas journal, I kept all the pages separate and then found Christmas lights that were pegs. So I was able to peg each one of the panels, a bit like bunting, on a wall. I really like the idea of that. They pack up inside a book cover during the year, but at Christmas time they look lovely hanging on the wall. I'm really happy with them. Everybody comments, so that's good. I might just go back and put a stitch there just to pull it in line a bit. Just felt like it was just pulled in too tight, and it's the stitch that I did, I think, that made that happen. I wonder if I go from that way and pull it across. If not, it is what it is. It's just going to be like that. So yeah, so that's the second window done. I quite like the look of that compared to that one. You can still see a bit of the dark underneath, which gives it a little bit of shadow, but it just pops it off the page, I think. Yeah. So there we go. I have no idea how long I've been chatting for. I should have kept a bit of a check on that. I'm going to do that in a minute, and if I think I can add a little bit more, then I might. But for now, I'm going to call that my video done. Hope you've enjoyed sitting along with me, chatting and stitching, or doing whatever it is that you might be doing today. And I hope you have a great day. Okay, bye. I'm back. I was gone for a whole 3 minutes, and I remembered that I wanted to share with you where I'd got the printables for the vintage Alice. It was an Etsy store that I just Googled it really and came across it, but that's the variety of pages that are included in it. When I printed it out, one of the things that I had to do was reduce it slightly, well, quite a lot actually, because when I tried to print them out in a photo format of different squares on one page, Alice was just a wee bit too big. She would have looked like she definitely had a drink out of the wrong bottle. And the other thing that I wanted to do was share. I've finished my bag and I nearly forgot to show you, and it was when I turned the video off, I saw it sitting there and I thought, oh, forgot to show you that. Yeah, so the straps are just the stripy fabric with a bit of grosgrain ribbon in it, and inside I added a pocket from a doily that I had. I meant to do it when I was making the lining and totally forgot, so then I had to turn it inside out and stitch it on by hand. But anyway, I thought it would be quite useful. I know a few people commented that they liked the bag. The lovely Pam from Pandora Junk Journals was doing something that she put a completely different lining in to what the outside looked, and I just loved the look of it. So thank you, Pam, for that bit of inspiration. Some Japanese fabric that a friend had brought me back from Japan that I hadn't used. So there was nothing big enough. I had to piece it all together. But yeah, I like the look of it. I think it'll be fun to take with some stitching in it somewhere. So yeah, that's me. Okay, hope you have a great day. Bye.